When I first moved to the UK, Tighe was one of the very first people I wanted to meet up with. And that's because Jack and I have very similar interests within the world of magic. Not only do we love magic and sleight of hand and all that kind of thing, but we're also really interested in the gambling sleight of hand aspect, the skills that card cheats use to cheat at games. And so whenever I get the chance to meet up with Jack, it's always a pleasure, and this conversation was no different. However, it did come with some difficulties. This was the very first time I've done a kind of interview live, and I'm not really set up for it gear-wise. So as a result, the audio quality wasn't the best. We were in a cafe, so there was a bit of background noise. Just bear with me on that. It's quite loud at the beginning, but it'll get quieter as you go on throughout the episode. But yeah, I really hope you enjoy this one. We talked about a whole lot of really interesting stuff. If you're at all interested in gambling sleight of hand, then this interview is for you. Jack works in a casino trying to catch cheats and all sorts of other stuff. So we talked about that along with many other things as well. I really hope you're enjoying this series. If you are, then please like the video or subscribe or do all that kind of stuff. I hate kind of pushing this out there, but it really does help. But yeah, anyway, I'll stop blabbing. I really hope you enjoy this episode. It was so good to sit down with Jack. So here is my conversation with Jack Tighe. So, Jack.
So, hello.
This is we've definitely not jammed for an hour or two already.
Yeah, we have wasted no time. We were straight to business.
Cameras on.
Just all business, all production.
All production.
Not messing around with card moves first.
No.
Just straight into the chat.
Absolutely no messing around. So I'm going to introduce you a little bit to the viewers. In fact, actually, how about you introduce stuff to the viewers, because you know a lot more about you than I do.
Okay, viewers. Yeah, I imagine most of them won't know me. I'm not particularly well known in magic, so I am Jack. I am a magician, and I work in the casino business when I'm not messing around with cards and doing tricks. So my job is in casino surveillance. I work in London. I'm actually a manager of casino surveillance now, but I've been in that role for 10 years. Sitting around trying to stop scumbags from cheating in casinos.
Which is interesting
considering also spending most of my time trying to work on the ways that scumbags used to cheat in casinos. So there's a weird irony there, definitely. Yeah.
And how did you get started in like magic and card stuff?
So magic and card stuff so magic was a lot earlier. So magic, I got into it the same way. I think probably most of us get into magic. Someone showed me a trick. I was on a train with my mum.
Oh wow.
We were on a train to somewhere, and I must have been creating a fuss or something because there was an old man sitting opposite, and he did that old thing where you pull your thumb off. And I loved it, and he said, "Oh, he likes magic. He should he'll be in the magic circle when he grows up or whatever." He said it's definitely something about the circle.
Wow.
And from then on, I just was interested in magic. Like I would watch every magic show that was on TV.
Yeah.
And then I was around about 10 or so when the David Blaine thing happened.
Oh, interesting.
For the first time. So he was huge on TV. I remember aunts and uncles watching the show and talking about Blaine. So there's this whole kind of buzz around magic around the time I was 10. And then that was around about the time I really picked up on it seriously. So I had a few magic kits from the time I was 6, so I used to watch magic on TV. But around about 10, no, maybe a little older, maybe around about 11, after I just started secondary school.
Yep.
I really got into it and started stealing magic books from the library. So I had the John Tremaine books, and I had a copy of Royal Road, I had a copy of Expert Card Technique, and I just never checked them back into the library.
Wow.
I didn't steal them in the way Ben Earl stole his.
How did he steal? Did he check them out the window or something?
He put them out the window. I just checked mine out like a rational human being, and
just
never returned it, like a gentleman. Didn't throw anything out the window.
Throwing out the window and sneaking out around.
But it amounts to theft anyway. So
well, yeah, I guess you're right.
I want to say that's like theft by omission. I just forgot.
Just permanently forgot. Yeah, exactly. Oh, nice. And I've heard a little bit about obviously the magic industry and magic as a whole was a heck of a lot different when you were growing up in it.
Oh, that's
in terms of material was so much harder to find. You had to take a massive trip every time you wanted to.
So yeah, I'm in this weird kind of. I'm 35 now, so I'm this weird kind of geometry. I was the youngest of the generation before me, and I'm a little bit older than kind of a lot of the guys that I ended up hanging around with in magic. So when I started, there was magic on the internet. It's not like the internet didn't exist, but certainly YouTube didn't exist. Illusionist had only just started out. I only had a couple of videos. It was the How to Do Street Magic video.
Oh yeah.
Alakazam was just a mail order company that had a few things. None of the big sites were big sites.
Yeah.
Certainly there wasn't any downloads. There was no magic to download. Even Illusionist, back when I started, it was would order over the phone or mail order for a VHS cassette.
Yeah.
And I could never afford them because I could never afford the international shipping, so I never had them.
Yeah.
But there's nothing on YouTube, there's no downloads, there's no streaming, nothing like that. I had to look for the first magic shop I used to go to in the Yellow Pages. I looked it up in Yellow Pages and then went there.
Wow. Which one was that?
And that was Kmart. Magic, that was in Upminster, which was 3 train stops away from where I lived.
Okay.
The demonstrator there was Liam Montier, who I just bugged. I just bugged the hell out of him for card moves. Annoyed the hell out of him. And eventually we became friends, and he's been one of my closest friends now for over 20 years.
Wow, awesome.
So yeah, but that was how it was. You used to go to the magic shop with whatever money you had for that week, and then buy a trick that was in a cellophane bag with a sheet of photocopied instructions. And it may or may not be good. Everyone complains now. It makes me laugh. Everyone complains now about demos being like, oh, they've left this out of the demo, or they've claimed this and they've been vague on this. It used to be you went there and you bought the thing and it was either good or it wasn't.
Yeah.
You used to have to trust that the thing in the magic shop was going to be good.
Yeah, we're spoiled now, because especially with like mail order stuff, they would just tell you an effect, right? And you'd be
They would tell you a vague effect and you just sent off for it hoping it was going to be good.
Yeah, that's bonkers to me.
So yeah, it's very, very different back then.
Yeah. And how did that affect like how you approach learning it? Because these days we're so spoiled for choice that like I have like hundreds of gigabytes of downloads sitting around that I haven't even watched. Like,
I think it's good and it's bad. I would imagine, like I've seen people come into, like I'm thinking particularly of a good friend of mine, Sarah Stott. She came into magic as an adult with this, she has a good job, so she came into magic as an adult with disposable income, which is good in a lot of ways because you have access to a load of stuff that I wouldn't have had access to. But also it's just choice paralysis. You know, you have too much to choose from. When I was, getting started in magic, I learned everything in whatever book you can get your hands on.
yeah.
So, I had the John Tremaine books and I had Royal Road, and you really, really go through those. And I remember when I first got to the magic shop and started buying cheap, probably pirated VHSs, I learned everything on them and I watched them a million times until they broke because that's all we had.
Yeah.
And to this day I still have issues of Magic magazine. I can tell you every product that was reviewed and what month it was reviewed, what advertisements for what products were in that issue, because you would read them cover to cover because it was all you had.
Yeah.
And you would try and work things out from descriptions of like the LNL tapes of the effect descriptions, you would try and work out handlings, and it's a lot of fun.
It's definitely lacking today. Like, it's so much easier to just like take a trick at face value and like just kind of pick the cream of the crop out of the book and like not dive into the like kind of the hidden gems or the things that no one really looks at because they're not
Exactly right.
fleshed out ideas.
But it's weird now. It's also the marketplace has changed. Like people are more satisfied with single trick downloads. Like I've been at Blackpool on the stand,
Yeah.
and you demo someone a trick from a multi-trick DVD set,
Yeah.
and they really like the trick, and you think you're about to make sale of the century. You think you're like some slick salesman, like, well, if you like that trick, boy, are you in for a treat because you can buy this trick and 12 others on this DVD set. And they kind of just go, no, I just wanted to buy that one thing.
Wow.
And it was really weird to me coming.
That seems silly.
But
Like,
I think I can't remember. I think it was Tim Trono who said that it actually makes sense in a weird way, because if someone buys a one-trick download and they like the thing that they bought, it's 100% satisfaction. Whereas if they buy a DVD that has 12 tricks and they like 6 of them, it's only 50% satisfaction of what they bought.
true.
So it's kind of like, weirdly, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like a lot more of an if you were a beginner in Magic and you were learning through single trick downloads, it seems
Oh, that would be very
like
expensive.
a really expensive way to
Yeah.
learn.
That's why I guess books are good compared to downloads, because downloads you might have 12 tricks, but books you might have 50.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
there's so much more stuff packed in there.
But I am the worst reader in the world. I read extensively, but I'm guilty sometimes of not reading thoroughly.
Yep.
Like sometimes I'll skip over a thing and then I come back to it years later and realise it was a gem, which is actually a treat. It's
Yeah.
almost like giving a present to my future self, like to
Yeah.
discover something really awesome in a book I thought I'd read properly.
Yeah.
No, that's a lot of fun.
But also, I feel like you can only really fully appreciate things later on. Like, there are some things that I would have looked at, like, a few years ago and gone, like, that's garbage, I would never do that. And then now I'm like, that's genius.
Oh man, there's definitely things. There's certainly some books are different books every time you go back to them. Like, Royal Road for me is the best example of that. Like, every time I go back to Royal Road, like after 3 or 4 years, I will revisit tricks and I'll have an idea for it or a presentation book or something I didn't have before. And it's such a good blank slate book. The tricks in there, it's really hard to articulate why. I don't know why. Like, if you pick up a Simon Aronson book, it's not the same. Like, those tricks are Simon Aronson tricks. Like he's done them to the point where
they kind of, you can feel his personality come through in the...
Yeah, but even if you take out the presentation, there's something about Simon Aronson and Paul Harris tricks that they're done. They're not blank slate tricks, whereas...
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. It's the same with John Bannon. He has a lot of blank slate.
A lot of the methods are so specific to that trick, whereas Royal Road, everything's like an overhand shuffle and pass.
Yeah.
Or a palm. Because it's a foundational textbook, the tricks feel a lot more... I kind of want to say open source. Does that make sense? Like you can plug in more things to them.
That does make sense.
It's like, you pick something up with the undo influence principle. You're not varying that trick too much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like I know, like from reading like a lot of John Bannon stuff, it also has that feel, I reckon, because he doesn't do anything complex. Like
he's really good at using foundational sleights in new ways.
Yeah, and then you can kind of go wherever you want, like presentationally with the trick, because it's just like, well, this is the effect, and now...
Yeah, a lot of the time you can't do that to a Paul Harris trick or a Simon Harrison trick.
Makes sense.
So yeah, definitely some books, the more you come back to them, the more you revisit them, I think the more rewarding you get. Great at Magic, some of them.
Oh really?
Expert Card Technique, Royal Road.
Yep. There are some...
Buckley's card.
Oh, Buckley's is a super underrated book. I feel like everyone knows about it, but no one really reads it. Like
no one's read it.
Like it is...
No one's read it.
There's the 52 card back part, which always cracks me up in that book, which is just bonkers. Like there's some crazy stuff in there. And crazy gambling stuff as well.
There's crazy gambling stuff in there.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'd love to hear your thoughts on is practice. Like, how do you approach it?
Oh, no, you don't want to hear my thoughts on practice. I have the worst approach.
No, I want to hear it. It's different. It's good.
Okay, so I have always practiced since I was a kid the same way, and it's a bad way to practice. It's not the optimal way. If you want to hear good ways to practice, you need to talk to Andy Frost.
Yep.
Ross Taylor has got some good thoughts on practice. Ben Earl, for me, is the king of practice. He approaches it
crazy
like a sport.
Yeah.
He's got a really good... And that's why he's better than the rest of us, man. That's why.
Because he's balancing, squash balls under his arms and doing it upside down. And...
Yeah, which, I mean, you can argue you don't have to do that stuff, but then show me someone that's as good as him that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So, case closed. But for what it's worth, I've always practiced the same way I practiced as a kid, which is I will read a move or see a move that I will work on, and then I will play with it enough to get my hands around it so I know I'm fundamentally doing all the technical aspects right, and then it's doing the thing that it's supposed to do, so it's a diagonal palm shift or whatever, the pivot point is right and it's lining up with my hand, and or in a pass I check that I'm doing it to the point where it actually works and you can see it's got legs. And then I just live with the move for a stupidly long time. Especially at work, I have the kind of job where I can play with cards. So my practice is play a lot of the time. I'll just be doing the move a lot, but not consciously. Which is probably bad. I know there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me in practice that say you're supposed to analyse it and you're supposed to get some visual feedback and then fix this thing and then that thing. But my approach has always been, for better or for worse, that I just live with the move for a long time.
Do you reassess it occasionally just to make sure your mechanics are still good and it's not flashing and stuff?
Occasionally, it seems to me that I'll find the thing that I want to do with it, and then it's another long period of just living with the move. Rather than constant deliberate assessments, which is probably what I should be doing. I always mean to do more of it. I always mean to sit down and do really analytical practice and deliberate practice. But I never have. It just doesn't seem to be the way my brain works. I just play with the move and enjoy it for a long period of time. And obviously I do make little corrections as we go, because otherwise you'd probably just be doing the move wrong. But it's probably not a time efficient way of doing it. I'm sure I could shave months and years off of certain things by practicing better.
I mean, maybe it's not always time efficient, but actually it's interesting you say that, because that's literally how I practice. And I actually made a video on this recently where I actually think it's a good way to learn crazy difficult stuff, because if you just get, like, for example, one crazy thing that, like, I've played around with centre dealing stuff, but at the moment I'm trying to learn Jason England's centre dealing technique that he teaches.
I can't do it for the life of me.
I know, I can't. And so, because it's so hard, I'm just like turning it into a fidget move, basically, and just like getting the squeeze right and just trying to like slowly build my fingers
No,
up to
I
it.
wouldn't be surprised if only Jason can do it, because I've never seen anyone else do it as well as he does.
Well, have you seen Daniel Roy do it? He does it quite
No,
well.
I've not seen that.
He has his center deal is beautiful, and I asked him like, what technique are you using? Because that looks fantastic. Because I especially love like, I know some center dealing techniques that you have like a whole lot of bevel stuff and everything, but this one is nice because it's literally just from a break. Like you can come here and then here, and now there's none of this going on, which just kind of seems cheating to me. But anyway, that's
See, I do the mash multi-center with the cards just
Oh,
side
yeah.
jogged, because I've heard a couple of magicians say, oh, this isn't a real center deal, and I'm like, what is a real center deal?
yeah. Well,
They're all demo moves.
yeah, exactly. No one's ever using these for cheating.
No, that's never been
Yeah.
used in a game. It never will be used in a game.
Yeah.
Just no. They're all demo moves, so you might as well do the one that you can do with the least amount of looking like you're having a stroke.
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, half the time I just go to Dennis Beer's one of his pseudo routines with the 2 second deals and.
I want to caveat it by saying, I'm not saying that Jason Ingram's one looks like he's having a stroke. He has the hand
Yes.
strength to do that effortlessly.
Yeah,
it
that's
looks
crazy.
soft when he does it.
Yeah.
But for me, that's just never going to be the case.
Yeah. Well, I've tried playing around with Steve's TV center deal
Oh
demo.
man, that's a good demo.
There's, I think, in my eyes, there's the perfect center deal demo, even if it's not a center deal.
It's great. It's a great thing.
Yeah. I mean, that thing won like Trick of the Year, right, from the Academy of Magical Arts. I think.
Apparently so, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it also is crazy difficult, especially because I don't do strike bottoms. So
I do a strike and I pitch it out. So for me, that's actually a good solution to the problem. I like that.
yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So once you play with it, is it just like forevermore you're playing with it, or is there a point where you're like, kind of now that your hands are familiar with the move, you kind of sit down and do something else, or what happens after the initial phase?
I mean, as I say, I'll occasionally go through things where I'll see someone else do something with it, or I'll get a tip on it, and then there's a little phase of readjusting to that particular thing. But very quickly, again, it becomes just a long period of just living with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, nice.
I'm trying to fix my strip at the moment, so because Ben told me off.
Which you'll strip out, or the
No,
thing?
with my genuine strip. Just
Oh,
a
you're
table
just doing the strip.
So I strip the same way I used to strip when I was a dealer, which
Okay.
is very. I think it might be an efficiency thing.
Yeah.
Just you get used to. So I would strip with like the elbow anchored to the table, so nothing moves, and the elbow was just a pivot point, and the arm moves, and that was how I'd strip on the game. Which doesn't look as nice as it could. You're better off having some wrist articulation in there so that the wrist moves.
Yeah.
And for me, I was very straight along the forearm, and like the whole arm would move.
Oh, so
from
this
the-
is just locked kind
It
of
was
thing.
just locked in place. And Ben was just like, we need to sort your strip out. That's his not. He was like, I'm going to slap you if you don't sort that out. So at the moment, I'm trying to work a little bit more wrist in there, so it softens up a little bit. So that's a good example. Like, at the moment, that's not unconscious for me. So if I'm not thinking about it, I strip back into the way I stripped for years with like a stiff arm.
Yeah.
And if I think about it, I'll try and work.
Though it
some
does have
wrist
quite
in.
a nice, I don't know, it has an aesthetic to it.
I think it came from an efficiency. I just got used to doing that at the table without having to move anything else.
Yeah. A lot of my stripping
playing with that.
inspiration comes from Joey's stuff.
Yeah, you've got very similar hands to Johnny, so
That's because I literally would just like
That
binge
would make
watch
sense.
his videos
Yeah.
non-stop.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's really, really good.
Actually, I'm keen to ask you a bit about your work in casinos, because that is pretty like. There aren't many game inside of hand guys who are also like on the floor, or not on the floor, in the sky, I guess. Like
In the
actually
sky.
watching,
We live in the sky.
like trying to Could you describe a little bit about what you do? Because I'm familiar with a little bit of that, but not heaps.
Okay, so I mean, what I do now is mostly sorting out rotas and investigations and disciplinaries and other people's holidays. But what I used to do is you're an operator, so you sit in the control room
Yep.
and you watch cameras, and it's a combination of dealing with things that come in, so reactive work and proactive work. So literally just scanning the tables, scanning the bars, and looking out for things that should not be happening.
Yep.
Some of that is game-based, so there are people trying to cheat the games or steal from the games. And some of it is food and beverage and hospitality and internal theft, like staff theft.
Right.
So,
Wow.
which is always something magicians don't think about when you think about casino surveillance.
Yeah.
They think you're just constantly catching blackjack cheats, and a lot of the time it's catching staff stealing and
Oh wow! So
You know,
not even.
thefts and slips, trips and falls and fights and fire and everything else that can go wrong in a casino.
Wow. Okay. And so, what percentage of your job is actually like, or maybe what percentage of your older job kind of is actually like watching surveillance tapes, trying to figure out if there's anything untoward happening, or does that not
With the
happen?
games?
Yeah, with the games.
No, I would say
Because that's kind of what I imagined when you told me what your job was.
I mean, it should be a lot higher, and I think any casino surveillance guys from around the world would say their department should be spending more time watching the tables.
Yeah.
In reality, you end up dealing with so many gaming disputes, complaints, slips, trips, falls, fights, theft from tills, that kind of thing. That I think every casino surveillance club would like to do more gaming, and I think all of us don't do as much as we would like.
So,
I mean, we are watching the cameras on the table as much as we physically can be.
Yep.
But without a doubt, a lot of. I mean, particularly magicians when they ask about this, what I always forget about the slots and the electronic gaming. There's a lot of guys on the slots and electronic gaming. So.
and is that? I mean, from what I understand, because of the increase in technology, like cheating in casinos has like rapidly decreased. Is that true, or is there still like?
I mean,
or is it just different?
It's different. It's different. A lot of it is not what magicians think about when they think about cheating in casinos. Like, you're not coming into work and seeing dice switches, deck switches, holding out. I mean, you do see those things. It's just not frequent.
Yep.
And that's made more difficult by the fact that it stands to reason that the best guys are probably getting past you as well.
Yeah.
You know, so by just the nature of the job, you're seeing the less sophisticated things.
Yeah.
And the less interesting things because they're more brute force and they're more likely to be spotted or caught. You know, are there really good guys coming in doing more sophisticated stuff? Probably.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to catch that stuff on camera anyway. And it's also, the reality of the industry is you have to be lucky to see it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because you've got 2 operators on shift, or maybe sometimes 3 in most clubs.
Your focus is so split.
And you've got 400 or more cameras. You know?
Yeah.
Especially also, you could even be looking at a table where cheating might be occurring. If you're watching that table retroactively doing a review or something, you're not even watching it in real time, so you might not be watching that table at the time that the cheat is there.
Yeah.
So it's a huge amount of luck involved anyway to be watching one specific table at the time that cheat happens to move. And that's also, you know, you have to have someone watching a table that has got the knowledge to see that move anyway. It might be a move or a stunt, or a stunt. It might be a move or a scam that they're just not familiar with.
Yeah.
And if they're not familiar with it and it's not part of their knowledge base, they're not going to see it.
But also, there is just so many techniques out there that it's like, for example, on the GPS tapes, Steve has like a few demo kind of cheating scenarios where he says someone is cheating, like, can you spot it basically? Yeah. And it's impossible because, like, even in just one game, one table, your focus is right there. You don't know what to look for. Like, is it going to happen during the deal? Is it a switch? Is it a, like? Yeah. I guess you get a custom.
You don't know which of the players on the table is going to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of what goes on is not even sleight of hand based. So a lot of the best scams are purely psychological, based off of procedure.
Just taking advantage of
weaknesses or loopholes in a procedure.
Yeah, like taking advantage of like a dealer's, like how they shuffle or how they that kind of stuff.
That's some of it, yeah. I mean, one of the best scams I ever saw, went on for ages and ages and ages, was just a dealer taking money off someone who was a partner of theirs, and for every £100 that they bought in for, the dealer was paying 200.
Oh, they just like missed just didn't get the bets right.
Not even getting them right. So, in a lot of clubs, when I started dealing, it would often be a small wooden block called the block.
Yeah.
And there are 2 steps on it. One was for money that you were dealing with, and one was for money that you were about to deal with. So you get a little block, so the camera and the inspector could see this is the money that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
A lot of clubs got rid of blocks, and the money goes on the wheel. So if someone gives you £100 chip, it goes on the wheel until you've dealt with it, and then once you've dealt with it, you've given either colour chips or cash chips, or cash. Cash chips come in and you give colour chips out, or a different value of cash chips. So you might break 100 up for 25s.
Yeah.
You never give it out loose cash.
Yeah.
That's just not a thing that happens.
Yeah.
But you might take one type of cash chip and put it on the wheel and then change it and break it for a different type of cash chip.
Yeah.
So it goes on the wheel until it's dealt with, at which point it goes down, it goes into the float or wherever else. So this particular dealer was putting money up on the wheel, and then just leaving it there until a different point in the spin or the end of the spin. So they might have someone throw in a £100 cash chip.
Yep.
He might give out a stack of colour at 5, which is £100, and then leave the chip on the wheel. And then at the end of the spin, he might give out a 4 25s for it, and then take it down.
So he's just paying the bet twice.
Paying the bet twice. And it's really hard because most inspectors are looking at 2 tables.
Yeah.
Surveillance are looking at a whole bunch of things. So if you look at the game and you're not watching the entire spin from beginning to end, that chip is in a place where that chip should be. It should be on the wheel.
You have to really be focusing on the...
It has to be there for some amount of time.
Yep.
And so unless you miss the fact that it would be very easy for you as an inspector to see a £100 cash chip on the wheel, turn around, look at the other table you're inspecting, and come back and still see a £100 there. And it might just be a different £100 chip that's come in since you looked away at the other table. Very difficult to know whether that was there the whole time. And even if you did suspect it was there the whole time, very difficult to assume that the dealer hasn't just forgot to take it down.
Yeah.
So psychologically, that's a great scan. Everything about that was right.
And so then you just have a dealer that's in on it, and then...
But weirdly, it's a really easy thing to catch once you're onto it. Once you're aware that that's the MO and that's what's happening, you see it every time.
Yeah,
if you just happen to glance at that game or do another camera check on that game and see that, really hard to spot. Because everything about it looks and feels right, apart from
just one moment.
Apart from one moment. And that's a great scan.
Yeah.
So magicians don't think about it. They think that you're catching button deals and switching
I can't imagine there's that much of that anymore. There must be some peak guys or something, but
I've seen cards swapping. That has happened at poker, holding.
Card swapping?
Yeah, between 2 people.
Oh wow.
But you can't muck on a 3-card poker game or a baccarat game anymore because the shuffling machines count cards to make sure that there's nothing missing.
Really?
So you can't break off start a card and then sit out with it because the cards being shuffled. A lot of the
is it shuffle machines or is it?
Yeah.
Most of the time, people aren't shuffling the cards.
Most of the time, people are not shuffling the cards, and the machines will know the card is missing. So you can't take a starter card.
What happens if that?
And mark with it.
What happens if you hold out a card and then the dealer, the shuffler, finds out there's one missing?
Then immediately the game will be stopped, the decks will be exchanged, and CCTV would have to find out what happened to that card.
Wow.
It happens on poker all the time. Most often the cause is the dealer's pitching cards around and want to slid underneath the rail.
Yep.
That can happen.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, that's a big deal. If the card goes missing, we have to find it and know where that card goes. And if not, we will take that entire colour of card out of play for months.
Oh.
Months and months and months.
Because you cannot risk having...
That particular colour will not be in use anymore.
Yeah. So is there never a case of people just seeing the decks that you're using and then just taking something to the casino? I guess then they'd add it and then it would figure out that there's 53 cards in the deck or something, right?
I mean, I guess it could happen. I mean, the shuffling machine would know if there was one too many cards.
Yeah.
Or a lot. I say it depends what model you're using. A lot of modern ones can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's just not. There would be better methods for. I guess it is not probably the right language to use for cheating because cheating is illegal and bad. But I'm so used to looking at it as a hobby, you know what I mean? The hobby of gambling sleight of hand.
We just look at moves and that's fun.
Yeah. I'm not actually.
A lot of cheating in the real world is just not like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it's not in private games and
because there's no
poker club and stuff. That is not my area. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
If the cheats still work in private poker games somewhere, I'm sure they do.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's very interesting. And do you ever the people in your workplace, your colleagues, ever interested in the gambling sleight of hand stuff that you do?
Not in the slightest.
They don't care at all.
They don't care.
You'd think there'd be it's a more meaningful context than...
Yeah, they just want me to shuffle quietly. That's what it comes down to. I've almost never showed any of them anything.
Wow, okay.
Although we did put together once a training video for trainee dealers.
Oh, really?
And I did a bunch of moves.
Just to kind of show what to look out for.
Yeah, but again, a lot of those were chip moves. Right. Rather than moves with cards. We did some card swapping and some marking scenarios and stuff like that. But
yeah,
certainly not false deals and all the rest of it.
Yeah, probably outdated as the technology has gone a bit around. Yeah, though...
it'll probably come back around again, everything does eventually.
Yeah, I guess if no one knows what a good bottom deal looks like or sounds like, then...
Yeah, I mean, cheating will get more advanced, and then methods to catch advanced cheating will get more advanced. So I imagine we'll come back around again to people doing old analog kind of methods of cheating.
Yeah, though it's hard to imagine that you could still get away with second viewing if you've got a bird's eye view, 4K or whatever resolution your cameras are. Like,
well, I mean, I imagine you could, because it would take someone looking at it at that exact moment and knowing what to look for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, overhead cameras, I'm sure, were a thing when second dealing was
actually that's
widespread and prevalent.
But you do, and also your attention is so split, like you said. If you only have to move a few times in a night for it to.
I mean, I'm certain they had overhead cameras in Vegas back when dealers were doing second deals and stuff. I'm almost certain. I don't know. I'm certain. It seems likely they would have had.
Yeah.
But it takes someone looking at the camera, knowing what to look for, and also, even if they do know what to look for, paying attention and looking at that table at the right time.
Yeah.
So,
what about card counting? Is that part of your roles, like figuring out if people are counting?
that is part of our role, yeah. But it's a lot easier to do in my environment.
Right.
So we can do it in a quiet office. We can put we can slow down to the playback on the footage. You can slow it down to half or quarter speed.
Yeah.
You can pause and add everything up that's on the table.
Yeah.
So although we are familiar with counting, we know how to analyse counting.
Yeah. It's not like you would actually.
I would be no good in a live game environment of going and counting when you have to do it at the speed the dealer's dealing and waitresses are coming over and other players.
And you're also having to not look like you're super
Yeah, you have
intense
to
on the
disguise
game.
your play and everything else.
Yep.
I would not be able to do it in that environment, and more power to people that are good at it.
Yep.
But yeah, in terms of counting along and knowing what to look for and how to determine whether someone's counting, yeah, that is part of our jobs.
What is your attitude towards it? Because it's kind of in a grey area. It's not cheating at all. You're just taking advantage of the game.
So we will, it's not cheating, but we will throw people out for it.
Yeah.
Because it's private property,
Yeah.
and we don't have to have anyone in for any reason.
Yeah. But like personally, like outside of your work, what do you think about? I mean, Stephen Bridges, right?
I couldn't care. I mean, really, it's the amount of people out there that can do significant damage to a casino's bottom line by card counting.
Yeah.
Almost, counting is not nearly as profitable as people think it is.
Yeah.
You know, there's been some very good studies. Elliot Jacobson, who's a great gaming mathematician and casino consultant, he's published articles and papers about the realistic expectations of card counting and the amount that a card counter, even in perfect conditions, can earn. It's just not that much.
Yeah.
It's just not that much. So,
Especially once you get backed off from a casino, then that's that.
yeah, I think Willie Allison described it best. Willie runs the World Game Protection Conference, and he described it as if someone stole a penny from you every single day, it's not the money, but after 1,000 times, it becomes the principle of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Even
and
though,
also, card counters don't bother me, and then a half, and they're not that much of a danger. Also, if I was going to argue it from the casino's perspective, the casino plays without skill.
yeah.
We have to make the casino doesn't get to decide on drawing rules. We have to at blackjack say, you have to stand on 17. You can't just decide as a casino to try your luck.
Yeah,
and hit.
exactly.
You have to stand or hit at certain times.
Yeah.
When the casino agrees to play without skill, there's an edge. Obviously, there's an edge in the casino's favour, but that's what pays for the casino and the staff and the waitresses and everything else to be there in the first place.
Yep.
If the casino were to train its dealers up to count and have them stand there for 8 hours a day practicing counting with no possible negative repercussions, and the dealers can stand there for 8 hours and count, you would assume that the dealers could get very good at counting very quickly.
Yeah.
And then what if the casino then decided you have a really, really good card counter dealing the game, and then that card counter decides to make standing and drawing decisions? If the casino were to play with skill, the edge would be even greater. The casino doesn't do that. The casino plays with a known edge that's advertised everywhere.
Yeah, everyone knows what they're getting into.
Everyone knows what they're getting into. So the casino plays without skill because it's a game of chance. So the players should play without skill and play a game of chance.
Yeah, and what you're paying for with the edge is a night of entertainment or...
Exactly. Now, I'm not saying that is my attitude. I'm
that's
saying
the
if I were to argue it from the casino's perspective, you could argue that. The casino plays without skill, treats it as a game of chance.
Yeah.
Therefore, the players should play without skill and treat it as a game of chance. Now, do I think it's morally wrong for someone to use their skill to beat a casino game? Not at all. If you can do it, do it. But also, we will throw you out for it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think there is that understanding though between, as long as I'm very limited understanding of card counting just from like watching Stephen's videos and stuff. But Like, from what I understand, it's like everyone kind of gets along as long as the backoffs aren't too harsh and horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a good idea to back people off and to say, look, you're too good for us. You can play roulette, you can play baccarat, whatever. You're not playing blackjack, but that's also then someone has to make sure they're not playing blackjack.
Yeah.
They're just playing roulette. Who's got time for that?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, but I think honesty is a good policy. Just you're too good for us.
Yeah.
Back them off. They're not doing anything wrong. I think some clubs get way too aggressive. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, sir, you can't play blackjack here. You're too good for us.
Yeah.
Treat them like a human. Let them move on somewhere else. I mean, I think there is a valid argument for it. Is that if you're not backing off card counters, you could potentially be advertising to other forms of advanced players and even cheaters that this casino is not on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's potentially then, other things can happen.
Yeah.
So that's part of why counters get backed off, because you don't want to advertise it as casino is just there for the taking. And
Yeah, exactly.
no one's paying attention, no one's backing anyone off.
Yeah. Yeah, plus it
Card
is...
counting, certainly. I can argue it from the casino's perspective all day. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what I think.
Yeah. 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 Oh, that's interesting. All right. Let's see. I want to go to... I have some more chill questions. This is something I've asked everyone who I've had on so far, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Who's one magician out there who hardly anyone knows about, but you think is super underrated and people should find this stuff?
Tyler Erickson.
Tyler Erickson.
Tyler Erickson. I've beaten this drum a few times on Instagram in the last however many years.
Yeah.
I've never met Tyler in person. We've only met on Zoom or Skype or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I had a palm that I came up with years and years and years ago. It wasn't based. It was based on something else, but something else wildly different. It was based on an Alan Ackerman move, and I changed it, and then I put it on Instagram. No one I'd ever met had seen anything similar to it, and then someone reached out and said, "Oh, my mentor Tyler Erickson does this palm."
Wow.
So he got in contact and he set up a Zoom meeting. And you know what it's like in magic. You never assume someone you've never heard of is going to be really good.
Yeah.
And that almost sounds arrogant, but it's just like when
Yeah, you assume that you kind of know everyone in the
you assume
kind
that
of
anyone that's really, really good, you're going to already be aware of.
Yeah.
And I met Tyler and I was just blown away by it. I lose track of the amount of times he's done really heavy sleight of hand, like passes and palms and stuff, in a way that I didn't go, oh, he did that well. You go, missed it entirely. Like much as when Chris Power or Ben does it.
Yeah.
You don't even smell it.
Yeah.
Tyler's like that, but also it's not just raw ability with him. He can also break everything down analytically and understand why it deceives a human brain.
Yeah.
So he's not only really good at the physical aspect of it, like the mental aspect and the analysis of it, he's unbelievable. And across a wide range, it's not just cards, like across what he calls small object magic, like a ball or coin slides. His thinking on everything is just the next level, and he has the ability to back it up. He's insanely good. He's part of my Mount Rushmore of magical gods. It's Ben, 40, Chris Power, Dave Williamson, Tyler Erickson.
Wow, that is a great Mount Rushmore.
Because they are all guys that can do sleight of hand in a way that a magician can watch it and miss moves that they should know.
Yeah.
And I know I'm decent at sleight of hand. I can do moves, and a lot of people will be like, "Oh, Jack does that well. He does that well. He's got some nice work on that. Nice ideas for that." But man, these guys are a level above. Those guys can do fundamental sleight of hand in a way that experts miss it, and that's a level of deception that I don't think I'm not anywhere near that. Most guys I know are not anywhere near that.
Yeah.
You really good card guys that we meet and hang around with, it gets to a level where you just go, oof.
Yeah.
My God, he does that well.
But you go, oof, but not like, wait a second, what did I...
Whereas Ben can palm cards in front of him, you go, there's no palming there, you miss it entirely.
See, it's hard to
Williamson,
know that.
There's a story I have about Williamson
Yeah.
that does the same thing. We were sitting in, it wouldn't have been a Denny's, it would have been somewhere, some diner in Vegas. It might have been Peppermint. In Vegas.
In Vegas.
And it was myself and Williamson, Peter Studebaker and Jason Inland. And we all had cards out, we all doing moves. Just shuffling the cards, shooting the shit. And our waitress comes up and goes, "Oh, you guys magicians?" And I just put my cards to the side. I was like, "Nope."
I do not need to show anything.
Jason got rid of his deck so fast that I just wonder if he used to top it. It was just gone, like just somewhere. But Williamson goes, "Oh yeah, I'm a magician. You want to see something?"
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't mind. Not that he will see this. Hi Dave.
Hi Dave.
If you see this, I hope he doesn't mind me telling the story. But the trick he had her pick a card, and she shuffles the deck herself, and she either cut or she tapped the deck, top of the deck or something, and her card was on top. So a really, really simple trick.
Yeah.
But the method was, he had I think maybe she selected a card, he put it back, he did his pass palm thing.
Yeah.
So he doesn't pass, immediately palms the card out, hands it to her to shuffle. I think, I might be misremembering, so I think he showed the top card wasn't there and then added the card back on.
Oh, yep.
So all, fundamental sleight of hand. But
Yeah.
myself and I think Jason as well, we missed it up until the point he was adding the card back on.
Wow.
I think we caught the add-on because we were sitting at the right angle, we were looking into the thumb side of his hand, so we caught the add-on.
Yeah.
But the pass, the palm, the holding out, I think we missed all of it.
Wow.
And that is just such a lesson of how far you can take sleight of hand. I'm certainly not in that league or that category, but I know that it can be done.
Not yet, Jack. Don't
Well,
never say never.
I'll never get there unless I start practicing in the right way. I think you have to think about magic a different way to be able to do that.
Yeah. That is, like you say, like the kind of the pinnacle of sleight of hand.
That
is
is the
where
pinnacle for me. And Chris Powell does it as well. Chris Powell will do, he does like 5 moves.
I've seen him so much. I need to actually sit down with him, man.
He's unbelievable. He only does he's, for me, the perfect magician because he doesn't do all of the latest shuffle work, he doesn't do all of the latest moves that come out. He does a handful of moves, but he does them. You watch him and just go, he didn't do anything. Like, for an hour. I watched a guy for an hour and he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He just has you pick a card and he sets the deck down and stuff happens.
Wow.
He's great.
I need to
And he
sit down
moves
with Chris.
so slowly as well. Like you can understand someone being that deceptive when they're moving fast. Like that I'm knocking it. Like Greg Wilson is one of my favourite magicians. But he goes 100 miles an hour and he'll just beat you over the head with things.
Yeah.
You see Greg Wilson mess up a move and he'll be like, no problem, and do the same move to the person over again. Until he just submits them and they're like, oh, that was magic, I don't know what goes on.
Yeah.
Like, so you can understand how someone would be deceptive like that. But Chris goes so slowly.
Yeah.
That you don't understand how anyone could pull off any move going as slowly as he does. And he's just doing passes and palms right in front of you and you miss all of it. It's unbelievable. So yeah, Williamson has that, Ben L definitely has that,
Yep.
40 has it.
Oh, 40 has it in a whole other way.
In a whole different way.
Well,
And Tyler Erickson I put in that category as well. Tyler Erickson definitely has it.
Wow, that's a great answer. I saw he had a masterclass, but apart from that, I've literally not seen anything from it.
And that masterclass, I watch it. If anyone watches that, you should definitely go buy it. But even that masterclass, you look at it and go, he's great, but that does not come close to the range, the breadth he has.
Yeah. I imagine he focused just on a couple of things.
Like getting started on eyeliner, where your eyes should go before and during the move, and it's something like he knows more about magic than almost anyone I've ever spoken to. He's incredible. And again, Tyler, if you hear this, hello, Tyler.
And Tyler, if you're listening to this, hit me up and we'll do an interview. I would love to get you on.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Oh man.
All of those 5 guys I mentioned are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
But
just.
also, if we're going to get into really unknown.
Okay. Here we go.
My friend Brad Hodgins.
Oh.
He's the best card guy you've never heard of or ever met.
Yeah.
And again, he's one of these guys, he doesn't do a huge amount of moves, but he has this genetic kind of casualness.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I met him for the first time at LMC, and like I could tell as soon as he squared up a deck, I was like, this guy is good.
He's got it.
This guy is good.
He's got that thing where he picks up a deck of cards, and before he's done anything, you go,
I'm ready to be fooled.
I'm watching a master. He's just got this touch that I can't do it.
Yeah.
There's this rhythm and this cadence to his work that he just has where, everything just looks better in his hands. Always has done, since we were like in our early 20s. Like, I remember when he was doing top stock controls out of Urbanus.
Yeah.
And they just look better in his hands, man. He just has something that you can't teach and you can't replicate, and if you don't have it, you can't get it.
Yep.
He's just great.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to run into him at a convention or whatever, just be prepared to hate your life. afterwards, and I've been dealing with that for 15 years now. So,
Yeah, I'm gutted. He only showed me one thing, and it was that trick we talked about before.
I would give like 50% of what I can do to be able to just riffle and strip a deck of cards and have it look like it does when he does it.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah. That's a good thing about London, though, right? There's so many just great guys that don't really pop up very often. Like,
I imagine it could be like that story. You know that story about was it Cardini? I think it might have been Cardini. Goes to America for the first time, and he happens to walk into a silhouette shop. And however they get onto it, I can't remember the ins and outs of the story. But the first two people who were Tighe.
wow.
And I think it was either, it might have been Arthur Finley, it might have been Finley.
Wow. Because Tighe was did silhouettes.
Did silhouettes, but he gets off the plane and he goes to New York, and the first two people he bumps into are Finley. And Vernon does some stuff, and Finley does some stuff. Maybe it was Larry Gray, not Arthur Finley.
Okay.
So it might have been Larry Gray.
Yep.
But either one of those two guys. So Cardini comes over from UK, and he's the card master in the UK.
Yeah.
And he comes over and he just, two guys showing tricks, and he's like, oh yeah, everyone in New York does this kind of stuff. Which obviously they did.
Yeah. But that's
and then
what
Cardini's like, what have I just walked into? Maybe it was Horowitz. I'm just going to go for all these New York guys.
Yeah.
It might have been Horowitz, Larry Gray, or Finley, or someone. The first two guys he meets are Vernon and one of these guys. And so he just thinks this is the standard in New York. And I can imagine it being like that if someone comes to London.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. Like, if you think you're a card man, the first person you bump into is Brad Hodges.
Yeah, or Ross.
Or Ross Taylor, or Slightly, or Andy Frost.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, is everyone like that?
Yeah.
Am I going to go to every Magic club and they're all like this? Like, what the hell?
To be honest, though, like you're such a powerful group in London. Like all those guys, Christian is phenomenal. Like
he's ridiculous.
And his Christian stuff is good on like that kind of psychological level as well, right?
He fools me more than any magician I've ever met.
Like he'll do, I've seen him do stuff that I definitely know, but just absolutely did not catch.
His thinking is next level.
Yeah.
And I feel very, very lucky to be a part of that group and to be friends with those guys, because I always describe myself as being like the rump of that litter. I'm always just trying to chase those guys and play catch up to them.
Yeah.
They're just
phenomenal
talent.
Don't be hard on yourself, Jack. Like it's just
it's
different
not even false modesty. I am always, my motivation for coming up with ideas is just always trying to catch up to those guys.
Yeah, that's fair. That's part of the thing that attracted me to London, actually. It's just like how powerful the scene is here. I mean, you kind of have like two levels where you kind of got the really top group, but then there's also a whole lot of just like,
there's some really creative guys doing really interesting work.
Yeah, exactly. And you have people from all the disciplines. Like, there's some great gambling guys in London, great sleight of hand guys, mentalism guys.
Yeah, we've got the whole lot.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, nice. It's interesting hearing your Mount Rushmore group, because there is that common theme of just like sleight of hand you don't smell.
Yeah, that's the pinnacle to me.
Yeah.
That's where you should get to.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about your other interests outside of card stuff. Do you have what do you usually get up to in free time, and how does that, if it does that influence your magic or anything like that, or is it quite a separate thing?
So I do jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Really? I didn't know that.
It influences my magic in the sense that it is ruining my hands.
It's the same as rock climbing for me.
It's the same as I haven't bumped into Joe Barry for quite a few years, but I know he took it up as well. I'd be curious to know if it's battering his hands the same way as mine. Carlo Ramirez is a great card guy and coin guy. I don't know him. He's a super underground guy from the previous generation. He was part of the Chris Powder, Guy Hollingworth.
Oh wow, cool.
Kind of group at that time. He's a phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to meet Carlo, he's great. But I know he's like a brown belt now, so I wonder if it's affecting his hands.
Oh man.
Because it just batters to the point where your knuckles are all messed up. So I've been doing that for just about 2 years now.
Does any of the thinking, like I've often thought that if you kind of master any subject or any two subjects, it's very easy to see overlap and
it has brought absolutely nothing to magic for me, but the other way around has worked. Okay. So having been in magic for such a long time and taught students and it got to the point where you go from beginner to intermediate to reassessing the basics and coming at them in different ways and starting to I don't want to use the word innovate, but start to come up with your own solutions for things and
Yeah.
new ways of composing things and putting them together. That has definitely helped me with jiu-jitsu.
Interesting.
Because I don't think I've got caught in that trap of what a lot of guys get into when they get into jiu-jitsu is seeing loads of really flashy technique on Instagram and wanting to do that first.
Right.
So I came into it with like, right, how do I wish I had approached magic in the very beginning?
That's
Which
really
would be
smart.
fundamentals. So
Yeah.
I've become a huge stickler for fundamentals in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And to the point where I've ignored any flashy technique and I've got no interest in it. I just want to really get to grips with the fundamentals. So I definitely thought that having that from magic has really, because I know in magic that I started out with the fundamentals,
Yeah.
and then by the time you're 5 years in, you're doing all the Ernest Eric stuff and you're trying to do a lot of Tony Chan stuff. And but eventually you come back around to, well, what did I miss about a lift shuffle the first time around? What did I miss about a top palm or a peak?
Yeah.
And you come back around to the fundamentals and you see them in a whole new way.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to avoid all these detours and waste of time in jiu-jitsu and just start with the fundamentals and really, really get into them and stay with them.
Yeah, I remember Ben talking about this, like the basics are advanced, where
Exactly.
you reach a level where all moves are equally advanced because it's not just about the physical technique, but about the psychological aspects, about covering the moves, all these other things. So like, a simple lift shuffle or a top change becomes just as advanced as a crazy steal or a...
Well, yeah, because it becomes about how can, some of the advanced moves are so angle sensitive that you can only do them from one angle or a couple of angles. Whereas the basics, they start out basic, but when you come back around to it becomes, you start thinking about them in terms of how can I make this deceptive all the time for all of the people in every situation. And that actually, when you open it up, it's a lot harder. Because to put over one move that works and is designed to work in one situation, when you're looking at it in that kind of situation, it's hard.
Yeah.
But how to do things that people that might have read a book on card magic or seen a card magic tape and might be aware of it. Because no one that's had an interest in magic as a kid but got out of it knows a longitudinal swivel stick.
Yeah.
They've never come across it.
Yeah.
No one that's been in magic that long for time that got into magic and then got out of it knows a one-handed convincing control.
Yeah.
But everyone that got into magic for a little bit of time, learned a few card tricks, knows
Like a jog shuffle.
and a glide and a double lift
Yeah.
and all those things. So it becomes, how do you then revisit the basics in such a way that guys that might be familiar with it
Just don't smell it.
don't smell it, and you can do it in all situations all the time.
Yeah.
That's hard in a way.
Yeah. Definitely harder. Yeah, and then I think Ben also talked about, it was quite interesting because he was kind of looking back on his own journey through magic, I guess, and you also get to a point where you have start with basics, go to advanced, go back to basics, and then you revisit advanced. Everything is simultaneously difficult, and then you just kind of have I guess after that, sleight of hand is just like a move stops becoming a move, like it's just a...
Well, it also becomes, I think as well, I think some of it is you lose, the advanced moves are just not practical. They're just not practical, and by practical I mean for walk around, up close, magic in situations where magic probably doesn't belong in the first place, but you get paid to do it there anyway.
Yeah. Well, I
in those
think
things, there's so many more things to consider than the move that the basics become difficult and advanced in those circumstances because you're thinking, where and when in the routine do I do a certain move? Is someone looking at me? Is it too much heat here? Do I have to hold off and set the deck down and come back to it? It goes from just being about the moves to being about a million other things.
But don't you think if you get a move to just muscle memory, then now you don't have to worry about the move, you're just thinking about the circumstance?
No.
Okay. You don't think...
No, I think there's some moves that are just not ever going to be suitable.
I think that's true.
I've seen some magicians who are world class where the magic falls apart completely because you were sitting 5 degrees too far to the left. And they're doing the move as well as it can be humanly done. It's not there's anything wrong with the technique, they're doing the technique as flawlessly as it can be done. But if you're sitting at the wrong height even or too far to one side, it all falls apart.
Yeah.
So there's some moves that are advanced, but you can never use them in advanced ways.
Yeah.
Because they're just not well designed for that circumstance.
Yeah, every move has its trade-off, I guess.
Yeah.
And some of them is practicality.
So but that's a whole other thing. It's
That is
not to
yeah.
disparage those moves because they're great.
Yeah. Like undertow is an advanced move, but I think that has genuine
And
use cases.
some people will say, oh yeah, but it's about controlling the viewing angle. It's like, yeah, but if you've got to turn so far to one side or move people to do that move, it's already not deceptive. Like if you're doing a move, you say, oh yeah, and you see people do it at conventions all the time,
Yeah,
where they'll show you a move when they'll turn and do it. It's like, you've already fucked it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or also, like...
Like you will never see Ben Earl turn in his chair to do a move. It won't happen.
Yeah.
It won't ever happen.
Yeah, but also, like, I think Ben, like, just has a technique for every angle, where it's like, okay, I want to palm a card, but what's the best one? I could do it from this if they're here, and this if they're here, and this one from the
He
bottom.
fundamentally, I guarantee you, he will never just turn.
Yeah.
I don't think he has smart ways of turning.
He has genius ways of turning, of like...
But yeah, you would never see him move for the sake of doing a move and a move back.
Yeah.
And that's another reason the basics are advanced. I mean, you can take a move that's basic, and not only is he, someone like Ben, mastered the moves, he's put hours of thought into how we can arrive at this.
And also the
body
transitions between everything as well,
body
right?
positions, do it, and the transitions between.
Yeah.
That's
what sets it apart.
that's advanced.
Yeah.
That's advanced.
Yeah. When you don't just practice the move, but you practice taking
Or
the card
Williamson,
back.
when Williamson was drilled with teddy bears of where
That's a
eye
great
lines are
drill.
going to be and how he's going to address people in terms of it. That's advanced.
Yeah.
And he might be doing that for a move as basic as a top change, but he's practiced it and drilled it in advanced ways.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. Well, okay, I tell you what. Let's do the closing questions, and then we can just talk, because
Okay.
I do want to get these in, because these are interesting. What is your pet peeve in Magic? Your Magic pet peeve is when you see other magicians doing something, and it's just like, bro, what are you doing? This could be
Over scripting. And I'm so glad because in Darren Brown's latest book, he did a chapter on it, and it's the thing that's bugged me for years.
What do you mean by that?
So, a lot of what makes Magic good in one context, like when it's a formal ticketed show on stage or in a theatre, is just so wrong for doing Magic walk around or socially or casually.
Yes. I see.
So that's a big pet peeve when you see someone doing like a really obviously scripted pattern.
Yeah.
And then they will complain that someone else has no presentation. It's like, sometimes, a lot of times in Magic, especially in close-up, you're in a situation where you're better off just being a human and talking to them.
Yeah.
And to go off into a big monologue just feels so wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And it breaks the immersion, right? Because now people are saying, okay, he's performing something at me, not
And
let's do something together.
a lot of the books, especially the old books, will talk about what you should and shouldn't do with oh, you shouldn't do this with an audience or that with an audience. So close-up, you haven't got an audience. You've got people that are sitting near you while you do projects.
Exactly. Especially in a casual setting, where it's around a table or something.
So yeah, that is a pet peeve, like over-performance in a context that's not right for it. But also, the flip side of that is then in a situation where that is correct to do that, you need to have it polished and be on your game with that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. A weird little pet peeve that is just might be a thing to see. Like, I hate it when people still say gamblers, and this is a thing that I think is just carried over from Vernon. And magicians pick up this from having seen other people do it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, this is how a gambler would control four aces. I'm like, a gambler wouldn't control four aces.
Yeah, exactly. It's like cheater.
A gambler would shout at a dealer when their numbers don't come in. Like, a gambler would accidentally sit down at a 3-card poker table thinking it's blackjack.
Yeah.
A cheat might control four aces, although still not. But, a gambler wouldn't do any of those things. So when people say gambler as a word for cheat, that just irks me.
I'm guilty of that,
needlessly.
definitely.
Oh, this is how a gambler would do it. A gambler wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
A cheat might. So that's a weird pet peeve.
Yeah.
What else is a pet peeve in Magic? Finger snapping, unnecessary finger snapping.
Yes, the card comes to the top.
No, it's
Not that.
worse in mentalism. Like, as a magic gesture,
Okay.
as a magic gesture, people rag on it. It doesn't offend me. You've got to do something.
Yeah, you got to do something.
There needs to be a moment.
Yeah. And a snap is at least kind of classy. It's not like...
And also, psychologically, a snap, it's very, very hard for people in the magic, even though they know rationally that a snap hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
If you're going snap, it's very, very hard for them to feel that the thing that you did didn't happen at that moment.
Yeah.
Because even if they know the snap didn't anything, it still feels like that would be the moment where the thing happened.
Yeah.
And if the method is in a different place, then it's good.
Yeah, exactly. If it's before or after, then
Even if they
feels like
don't
it's done.
believe the snap did it, if they think that the snap is the moment when the thing happened, even if they don't think the snap caused it or had anything to do with it,
Yeah.
if they think that you're snapping at that moment because that's the moment the method happened and the method didn't happen then, I still think that's good.
Yeah.
But the snapping, I've had like 14-year-olds at conventions be like, when I say go, when I snap, just change your mind again. Change it again, and you're like, just fuck off with the snapping, please.
Or it's like the hypnotic induction stuff. I was going to do a bit of a piss take with that, and that thing I showed you before, where I just go, now don't fall sound asleep, don't go deep into sleep. It's like, okay, man, like.
Yeah, so unnecessary face snapping, that works for me in Magic. There's a lot that I'm playing, like, just dressing like a weirdo.
You're calling me out, yeah?
Like, you could walk into a room and no one would know you were a magician.
What?
Whereas I went to like Azzy Wynn's show, and you could just pick out in the audience who's the magician.
Yeah, it's like that quote, like the number of magician's skill is inversely proportional to the number of sequins on his jacket.
But you know what? It's got even funnier as people move away from it, because you're like, people, particularly at conventions, they seem to have got away from that into just dressing way too smart for the place they're in.
Oh, just going like way too.
Who these days it's not who's the magician because it's the black shirt and a red bunny tie. You'll see like who's the magician. Oh, it's the guy who's in another magician's show in Soho at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday, and he's wearing a 3-piece suit and a trilby hat. And like
he's got a pocket square.
So just dressing like a magician in situations where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
That bugs me.
That's fair to me. That is fair. Yeah. You gotta blend in. Okay, well,
if you go to a coffee shop near a magic conference, all you have to do is look, who's got a thumb ring and like a leather wrist strap?
Yep.
And you're like, that's the magician.
Yep. Usually fiddling with a coin or something. Yeah. Okay, well, next question. If you could only read 3 magic books for the rest of your life, let's assume you've read what you've read, but from now on, only 3. What are they going to be?
Royal Road.
Wow.
Is without a doubt choice number 1.
Yep.
Single volumes or?
Yeah, single volumes. Card College does not count as well.
No, it wouldn't be Card College. I was going to try and sneak in Art of Astonishment, but okay.
We'll allow Gambling Sleight of Hand Volume 1 and 2 as one, if you want. It can be, if it's 2 volumes, it can count as one. How about that?
Right, okay. There's 2 volumes that can count as one. So then, I think you've got to go Gambling Sleight of Hand 1 and 2.
Yep.
Royal Road, and hard to get third because I'm weighing up. Do I go with my favourite books that I've already read?
Yeah.
Or do I go with books that have the most things in them for the rest of my life?
Well, it's also like you're going to be rereading these over and over again. So it's like I guess you want to choose books that still give you value out on the 20th read, or like.
Maybe I have to go with. It's hard.
That's hard. Would you go for a theory book?
No. Maybe I'd go with Revolutionary Card Technique in that case if it's forever.
Yeah.
Because you'd want technique. You'd want inspiring technique.
Yeah. Yeah, Revolutionary Card Technique is a great one for that because you can never really just read through it, like unless you specifically set that as a goal. It's like a reference thing, but there's so many random variations.
That's right.
So nice. So Royal Road, Gambling Sleight of Hand, Revolutionary Card Technique. Nice. That's a good choice. Okay, we're getting down to
maybe Greater Magic.
Oh, really?
If not one of those 3, Greater Magic would slip in there.
Greater Magic. That's one. I need to get Greater Magic, or at least read it.
It's fantastic.
Okay, last question, and then we can wrap up. If you could go on a dinner date with any magician from history at any time in their life, who would it be? They could be currently alive, they could be dead. Who would you choose?
Oh, okay.
And this could be just a dinner, or you could be jamming. It's up to you.
I'm going with Jack Macmillan.
Really? Jack Macmillan?
Jack Macmillan.
Wow. Interesting.
He is my... I don't know, maybe I'm the only person weird enough to have heroes that you never read, that you never met or really saw anything from. So there is a clip of Jack Macmillan, and it's great.
Yeah.
But growing up reading expert card technique and then getting into my mid-20s and reading a book about his life and his work, Jack McMillan was my kind of imaginary hero. When you have that, I know Luke Jermaine's talking about this, so I'm not the only one that's crazy. But if you've got a guy that is your imaginary hero, who does all of the things perfectly in your head that you then strive towards, even though it doesn't make any sense, because even if you're thinking, if you're always thinking, I wonder how Jack McMillan, who in my head is the perfect card man, like the all-time perfect card man, how Jack McMillan do it, you end up weirdly coming up with stuff and coming up with ways of looking at it. That might not even be how we did it, but because in my head Jack McMillan is the all-time great card man, the fact that I don't know what it would look like when he did it pushes me to try and do it how he would do it, which makes no sense. But it
does make sense.
Because if you read the Jack McMillan book and hear how other magicians talked about him at the time, they're all seeing his praise like, there's stories about someone seeing someone do a move and being like, oh, that's great, but oh my God, you should see Jack McMillan do this. And,
Yeah, well, do you think that would be disappointing then, meeting him in person? Or do you think that would just
maybe, but that's the risk you take, right?
Yeah.
If it's someone who I've seen and know would not be a disappointment, maybe Ricky J.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a great choice.
To read Ricky J, but I would he probably wouldn't give me the time of day.
Well, if he's forced to go on a dinner date with you,
but let's assume in this situation he's open and friendly, maybe.
Yeah,
Charlie
exactly.
Miller would be another
one.
one.
Charlie Miller's a great one.
All things considered, to have dinner with someone and hope that they're as good as they would be in my head, Jack Miller.
Yeah. Wow, I would not have picked you to choose that, because usually you go for like I can't remember what people have actually said in the past. Great choice. Well, we're about to get kicked out of this coffee shop.
We are.
So we got to wrap up. But Jack, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you so much.
And it's nice to have someone whose interests align similarly to mine with gambling stuff and with magic stuff. So it's great to be on.
Power nerds. We're just doing power nerds stuff.
Exactly. So yeah, thanks for coming on. This is your chance, by the way, to plug anything. Do you have anything that you've got out? I know you've done some Big Blind Media stuff.
So yeah, you can find almost everything that I've ever published will be on Big Blind Media.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Jack.
Thank you.
And now I'll turn the cameras off.
Cameras off.
Right. Before we go, though, I have to say...